Hey Freddie, I've been watching this movie called North by Northwest, but I don't quite understand the underlying concepts.
Well, let's have a look. One of the scenes we'll be looking at today is the one where Thornhill gets framed for murder. It starts off with Thornhill exiting a yellow cab, symbolising the American wealth and the massive economy. This blatant symbol of capitalism contrasts the communist ideologies directly. Alfred Hitchcock uses long camera angles to belittle Thornhill as he passes through the building that represents many nations, showing just how out of depth Thornhill really is. This creates the idea of the American hero taking on the impossible challenge and coming out on top. When Thornhill talks to the receptionist, he refers to himself as George Kaplan, showing that he's embracing the role that fate has assigned him. The antagonists soon arrive in their respective red cab, representing communism and evil intent. They too are shown to be dwarfed by the large building with the long shot of the foyer. Thornhill then talks to Lester Townsend and figures out that it was not him who attempted to kill him, but the imposters, showing the Cold War ideology that nothing is what it seems and that America has been infiltrated by spies. One of the lackeys is shown in a zoom shot, which highlights how he has infiltrated the building that represent nations, figuratively infiltrating all of the nations. Lester Townsend was then stabbed in the back, showing the sneaky and cowardly way the Soviet infiltrators kill people in America. Thornhill is then shown in a murder, which is ironic since he is in the building that represents international cooperation and justice. As soon as it seems that Thornhill had embraced the role he was given, everything was turned upside down and he is framed for a crime he did not commit.
I understand that scene, but do any others have a strong underlying theme of the Cold War?
Well, the cafeteria scene is a good example. The entire scene is based around the concept of spying and deception. All the action that happens in the scene is right below Mount Rushmore, with the founding fathers watching overhead, as if giving a word of warning before completing the mission. This ties directly to the Cold War, with missions being completed by spies of which the government could fund and support, but could not release to the public. Van Damme arrives in a black hat, symbolising that he is the villain, and Eve arrives wearing all black, the same that you would wear to attend a funeral. Her dress is foreshadowing Thornhill's death. The faking of Thornhill's death is a classic example of spy work during the Cold War. During Thornhill and Van Damme's conversation, Thornhill has his hands under the table and has his back against the wall, representing how he is not in power in the conversation and yet how he is in over his head. His facial expression is also worried and nervous. Van Damme, on the other hand, has his hands over the table, showing how he is in power, and he also has a very calm expression on his face. This aspect of the scene represents how during the Cold War, America and Russia both had the largest amount of power at different times. After the shooting, Eve runs away and is watched over by the founding fathers. The white car directly contrasts with her dark clothes, symbolising innocence and how she is still on the good side. This further contributes to the idea of deception and spying during the Cold War.
Makes sense now. Are there any relevant Cold War texts that share the same theme?
In The Human Factor, there is a strong theme of the Cold War, especially in Chapter 2 of Part 3. This talks about the psychological impacts of being a spy. While playing a game of hide and seek, suggested by Davis, Davis is the first to hide, and states, "It's a bloody cold hiding in the shade," showing that it is lonely and difficult to hide and infiltrate as a spy's job, essentially. This highlights the emotional and psychological impacts and trauma of being a spy, showing how no side made it out of the Cold War unscathed, and even the people infiltrating can be. Ultimately showing the futility of the Cold War, with no side coming out on top, sharing the idea of mutually assured destruction, whether internally or externally. How about another example? In the end of Chapter 4, in the novel Cloud and Wallfish, Noah, the protagonist of the novel, gets told a set of rules by his mother for living in East Germany. It is quite hard for Noah, as he is used to living in American society. As it is the middle of the Cold War, American families in East Germany were highly suspected of being spies, so there were rules set for Noah. Rule 1 was that they were always watching and listening. This meant that they couldn't talk about serious things indoors. This is a key example of governmental behaviour during the Cold War, with the Americans being under complete watch and being permanently spied on, with no regard for privacy while they are in the Soviet Union. Noah's mum tells him that there are probably more spies per square kilometre in East Germany than anywhere else in the world. Noah's mother was alluding to how during the Cold War period, the strict laws about leaving and entering East Germany and secrets getting over the border, everyone who they suspected in the slightest was watched. Now you understand about how Cold War concepts and concerns were displayed accurately throughout text and film during the Cold War period.
Yes, now I understand.